from high school. Well, and a few nifty other words, but it's kind of scary. I remember more of my German class now than I did when I was in it. And that was over, oh gosh, how many years ago? But all right, 35 years ago, I was in school. Well, a little over that. But all right, I've been checking in a little early because I've been trying to get in the door a little early. I've been sneaking my name onto the go home list, and if you ain't in there for a certain time, you can forget it. So that's why I've been popping in a little early on you in the morning. Because if I actually get a space, I get, because I could wait till I get to the back of the building, but that will be like God knows when I finally get on the air. But um, 20 years of New Who. It was on this day, March 26, 2005, that Doctor Who returned with Rose. Chris Eccleston, Billy Piper, back before streaming television and the declining ratings that that came with it. And it's funny how all the people who know what they're talking about know overnight ratings don't mean dick anymore. But all the guys who don't know what they're doing about and hope the majority of their audience won't research on their own will use this as proof that the show is dead, declining, and all this shit. And I see this repeatedly now, every day. The lowest, I love this. There was one guy. The other day I saw this, and I was like, I have to literally stop myself because it does no good to address the moronic with facts. Because as Tom Baker said, the one common thing between the very rich and the very stupid is that they never alter their views to fit the facts. They always try to alter the facts to fit their views. And that's very true. You'll find out in real life. That's a big, yeah, it does happen. No one wants to hear the truth anymore. The truth has become the enemy of society. But they never mention, yeah, it was the lowest overnight rated, but why don't you go look at what everything else rated that night? Doctor Who, in the overnights, I have to go double check the plus sevens to be sure, the consolidateds, beat Strictly Come Dancing for the first time in how long? On Christmas. They never mention that, do they? Because Strictly isn't going away, is it? Yeah, where's the guys who are bitching about Strictly Come Dancing? It's like, I have found the performance lackluster. You could tell by the style of dance it was completely woke. Matter of fact, you notice that the one girl, yeah, anything that's not white is diversity hiring. And, oh my God. It drives me insane. I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you sing what by who? Sorry, dude. A, you don't want me to sing. I will not pay for the psychological damage, nor will I pay for your hearing, exam afterward. That's just simply the case. No, it will not happen. But yes, it was 20 years ago this date that, yeah, Doctor Who returned to our TVs for the first time since the 96 movie, which, looking back on the 96 movie, I've actually started, to give it a break. But what I still die laughing is, it was an Americanized failure of Doctor Who. And I'm like, let me see. British screenwriter, British director, British producer. How was this Americanized? All right, you bought the Battlefield DVD. Oh, it wasn't too good, huh? I still like Battlefield because it brought back the Brigadier in a big way again. And okay, stay focused. Yes, we landed on the moon. I know, like I said, I have been a bit of conspiracy theorist in the fact that even I do a little research. You know how we tell the distance from the Earth to the moon generally? Because we bounce lasers off the reflectors that the astronauts left out. So yes, we've been to the moon. I still love how people are denying that to this day, because it's just the only reason we didn't go back to the moon is the space race was pretty much over. Russia pretty much threw in the towel at that point, which I died laughing because also we didn't have the money. And I'm like, you already had like half a dozen, Saturn V's ready to go out and just be put together and stood up on the launching pad. In the words of another person, I can't remember who quoted this, it was like saying we bought a brand new Rolls Royce, we just didn't have the gas to drive it. Oof. Well, there is proof that the density inside the moon could prove it's hollow. I believe it was the Apollo 12, the second mission to the moon. Well, the second one that landed on the moon. There were other missions before that circled the moon, orbited, and all that shit. But it was on Apollo 12. They took the lunar excursion module and deliberately crashed it into the moon. And after that, the moon rang for, depending on what version you hear, I've heard up to 6 hours. They were picking up on the seismic sensors that were left by astronauts, because we didn't have really complicated rovers then. And the moon reverberated like a bell for over, like, I heard, an hour to 6 hours. So yes, also keep in mind, our moon is the only moon in this solar system, and I covered this in the story Death Moon, which I wrote mainly because Kill the Moon was such a bad episode, and our moon is very, very mysterious. Because they've already checked a lot of stuff on the moon. The moon did not come from an offshoot of the Earth. They pretty much know this for a fact now. They've been coming up with theories as to how the moon got here. There's no way we captured the moon, being a rogue body, because its orbit would be way more elliptical, which it's not. We have the only moon in this solar system that we know of that does not rotate relative to the planet it rolls around, which means it's always showing the same face at the Earth at any given time, and has a nearly perfect circular orbit and can perfectly block a solar eclipse because of its scale to the distance from the sun. Makes you wonder, though. But no, I do not believe the moon is actually a spaceship. Like I said, I do not know. We'll probably never know. Because even if they did find out, thanks to the Brookings report, they will classify anything they don't want you to see. Which is why I still don't buy Cydonia as a bunch of mesas that just happen to look like a giant rock face. Yeah, let's not mention those other strange structures on the Cydonia plane. Yeah, it's all just optical illusions. That's why I don't believe anything, NASA has to say, as far as that goes. Because everyone believes NASA's a public thing. Yeah, but guess what? Like any other good service, the president has the right to classify anything they find. A lot of people don't know that little bit about NASA, do you? That's right. Shooty's good. I think there's isn't Verada See-Through there with him, or is that the other show they were on? Yeah, they're advertising the show that died. Okay, and the big thing with the backdrop, the images, what it was is Shooty did a small beginning thing that they put out before the trailer now. And it's obvious he's standing in front of a backdrop. But they could have done that because guess what? He wasn't available to go to Cardiff to go to the set. It doesn't mean the set's been destroyed. It's been sold at a flea market. I'm not kidding. Some of the crazy shit everybody comes up with, like their Hercule frickin' Poirot, solving the Orient Express murder or whatever. It's like, no. I know a lot of people are like, how come we ain't on Mars by now? I don't know, but like I said, you have to remember, think of the logistics of that trip. You've got to keep people alive, fed, watered, and poo-poo and pee-peeing for how many months in space, however long time they're going to be there, and then however many months to come back. Now remember, we had a hell of a time just getting a bunch of people fed, watered, and blah blah to the moon and back, and that's nowhere near about the same different distance. Exactly, we don't have. Yeah, Mars is not have a habitable atmosphere or anything like that. Also, like I said, so we got to keep people food, you got to keep them fed, watered. Well, I know on the space shuttle you got, or in the ISS and all that, you had to tack a vacuum hose to your butt. Imagine having the poop sucked out of your butt. That can't be fun. Oh, well, then again, it would make it easier to push it out in some cases, but wiping in space takes on a whole new hazard, doesn't it? Oh, God. What did I just bring up? 20 years of New Who. That's right. You think things are bad on Mars, though? Come on. Imagine they have to travel to a weird, exotic world like the planet Baldus. We think there's life there. We're just not very sure. We tried to send rovers, but they didn't want to land. They suddenly became artificially intelligent and said, "No way, Jose." Okay, yeah, so 20 years today, that's what we were talking about, Mark, yeah, since Rose first aired. And I remember how many people thought they were going to get some kind of clout because we watched a leaked copy of it days before or something like that. And I'm like, and this gives you more cred as a fan? How? So I watched the one Capaldi season, half of it before it aired. It didn't make me any more a fan than anybody else. And don't blame me, blame that idiot who left the episodes on an open server. God, I wish I was 25 again. That seems like a distant memory. There were still some trees on the planet Baldus then. Okay, yeah, I watched the first few episodes of that one series before it aired. Because they had like the first 4 or 5 episodes and they had the scripts out as well. I remember all that. But like I said, it was their fault. They were supposed to be doing the subtitles and somebody left all the episodes sitting on a server that was open to the internet. And sure enough, boom, next thing you know, they're on Pirate Bay, a torrent site. Torrents are evil. We don't talk about torrents. Oh. Well, what can you do? 20 years ago, yeah, that Eccleston first came out with Billy Piper as Rose, and Billy Piper, who now still a very attractive young woman, but I think she's had work done. Am I going crazy? And why would anyone want to have work done? She was pretty enough, for crying out loud. It's kind of weird how there's people out there who've literally had so many plastic surgeries that by the time they're done tightening it up and pulling skin back, you're literally talking out your ass like Cassandra. But oh well. And we got to thank Eccleston for his effort, because I don't think anyone else could have pulled off a line like, "Would you mind not farting while I'm trying to save the world?" And Captain Jack, who now has been wronged for shit he did years ago and already apologized for. I love how they put up this one headline about this going, he refuses to apologize because everyone didn't mind back then. And it's like, he already did. I'm sorry, but you can't keep apologizing for some tomfoolery you did how many decades ago. Ugh. Oh, yeah, she's a gorgeous lady. She still is. I'm not complaining. Oh, well, folks, I'm going to run inside now because I'm trying to get into work a little early these days. So please be kind, be calm, be safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everyone. And we'll catch you all tomorrow. Happy 20th anniversary to New Who. I hope it goes a lot longer just to piss off the critics. Take care, everyone.